Hello everyone, this is Quantilian and welcome to another tutorial focusing again on the use of Nomad Sculpt. As you can see, I had a downgrade, and before starting asking questions, I am doing this intentionally. I still have my new iPad and the Apple Pencil, but I wanted you to work with what you already have. You don't need a fancy iPad, a high-end device to start producing work and learning the app. And in here I am demonstrating this on my previous iPad. I think this is the 5th generation, so before the Apple Pencil, or if there was an Apple Pencil, it's not compatible. So my finger, my trusty old iPad, and we're ready to go. Today's focus is on the use of layers, and we will apply that in modeling or sculpting a flag, which is a very easy and simple to do prop. To give credit, the idea of using layers came from you. Yes, you. And I need to give credit to Michael NG, who has commented on my previous video about using layers, and when I have tried it, I think it is very useful and it has many applications that you could use in your workflow. And also, as part of this motivational approach for teaching, what I would like to do is to show you probably one of my first Nomad Sculpts. And if you look into it, don't ask me why I still have it on me. I think I've just stopped using Nomad Sculpt in here, and this was there when I wanted to record this video. So looking into it, it's always funny when you look into your old work. I don't know what I was trying to model in here, a cat with a human nose probably, but I got the nose okay, the eyes position are okay. This is just again to motivate you that we all have been there, we've done it. Some of you are way more advanced than what you look into here and what you see. So keep it going, and time by time you would find yourself improving, and it would help if you have your old work with you. So as usual, let's start with a new scene. And in this new scene, the first thing I will do, I'll just need to check that my shortcuts, or the one that I will be using, are in place. I usually like the snap and the reset, and the most important for me is the wireframe. And the wireframe shows the geometry as we've explained before. And the reason is that you need to look into your wireframe is to match what you see in the wireframe with what the numbers you see in here, if you want to optimize your model and if you don't want to kill your device while you're using Nomad Sculpt. And also the second thing is just to make sure that smooth shading is on, so it was on already. And if I scroll down, I need to remove a grid. I don't need the grid. I don't want to use it for reference for this tutorial. And as usual, go to the scene and delete the sphere. I always like to start from a clean slate. Now let's start into this video tutorial. So we will be modeling a flag, and the flag is a very simple pole, which if you translate it in geometry, it's a cylinder with a small radius and a big height, and a plane, and this plane would have several colors and would have some kind of modification or a little bit of noise if you want, which is like a flapping flag. So let's start with the most important bit, which is the plane. I have my plane in here, and before doing anything, I am looking in the front view, and that's how I wanted it to be. I want my gizmo to be snapped, so I am moving the rotation all the way up, and then I am moving it down. Now this rotation somehow dictate the angle, and if I have it all the way up, it's 90, and that's why with one touch, I was able to have it at 90. Then I want the shape of the flag not to come after the validation. I want it to be part of the validation, so I have or still remain these equal squares as my grid. So in the topology, I would go down, look for the geometry, uncheck the same size for X and Y. This is X and this is Y. And then I could start changing Y a little bit to the side. I need to put this on the side so you can see exactly what's happening. And for the X, I could expand it a little bit. And again, you can see how clean the geometry is. And that's my aim in here. So once you're happy with this, then half of your flag is done, believe it or not. Now, let's get into using layers. So what are layers? Layers, think of them as a record of your operation at a certain point. And this record could contain data of your paint and data of your actual geometry. So the flag itself needs to be drawn before we start making the flapping effect. So to do so, there are different types of flags, and I will not choose one specific flag for this tutorial. But what I will do is I will choose random colors, and those random colors will show you what the flag look like. You could use alphas. You could take more time to refine your flag. This is just a simple demonstration to show you how the tool works. So I will be using cell mask, and for my cell mask, I'm very happy with the rectangle. And I am eyeballing the selection. I am estimating what I am selecting. And I want this to be 3 colors. So this is probably too much. I could click on unmask and then unmask what I want to. Remember, when you mask, it's like the data is on the white area, not the black. So if I want to color this area that is black, what I need to do is just click on mask and invert it. And in here, rather than me picking the paint and then painting, unless you want a specific pattern, you could do this. You could just click on the stroke, on the brush, and in the brush, I don't want the roughness to be up. Actually, I want it to be up. So usually when we talk about fabric, we talk about material that does not have much of a reflection. And I'll choose this color to be something random. So let me go with this, like a green, grass green or lime green, if you like. And then just, rather than click on first paint all, I would click on paint all, and we are good to go with regard to this area. Now, to remove my mask, I would need to stay on the cell mask, click on the setting and clear. On the cell mask, while I'm choosing the rectangle and I have the mask on rather than the unmask, I could take it all the way up here and select those pixels. Again, why I like using the wireframe, because if you've seen my previous tutorial, I've showed you how you could actually decide what pixel and what vertex is been selected, and that's clear in here. So again, clicking on the settings, click on invert and go to the brush tool, select your appropriate color. So let's go with pink. That looks good. The same roughness without metalness, and paint. By the way, one easy way of how you could select accurate vertices is to have it as orthographic, which is something probably you've seen I've missed. So orthographic would allow you to snap it to the view. So if I am snapping it now, you can see that it's exactly in that view. And another thing is to work with matte cap, and matte cap somehow remove the impact of the HDRI and focus on the impact of the material that you have in here. I'll keep the PBR for now, and I just need to invert my to clear my flag. And as you can see now, we have the flag in place. As I've mentioned before, what would be really good is to have your layer used for painting, and you could use it even for any kind of modification for the geometry, and the layers are available for you here. So what I did now is I have my original flag design in place. If I click on add layer, now this layer would start recording the different information or operation that I'll be working with. So the first thing I would be using is the move tool and making sure that my symmetry is off, and start moving the different point in the way that you think a flag would flap. And as you can see, I'm simply moving point around without much thinking. You could have a reference of a flag if you would like to, but generally speaking, I always like to experiment. Once you get into a confident level of using the app, use references, and especially if you're thinking of getting into the industry, you would usually have to draw your character or your idea on a paper before actually start modeling it, and that would save time. And as you can see here, I'm just moving points around, nothing more. And in here comes the power of layers. So as you have seen, what if you want to go back and repaint the flag? If you have the layer on, which I have added, you can always go back to the initial state. And if you don't want these colors to be, you can always add a layer, and you can specify what the layer impact is regarding the color. And in here, I've added a new layer, which is layer 1. I can simply go to the brush and override any color I want. And let's force paint or paint all. In this situation, doesn't matter. As you can see, I can go back and change it. And what would be really nice is that it accumulates. So what's happening is what we've initially add as a layer, and that layer is more about the geometry. I could actually cover it with a painting layer. So I can always go back to my flag at the beginning, add the details I want, and then move it around. And once I have that in place, then I'm good to go. You might want to use different layers. And if you're a little bit at the beginning of using Nomad Sculpt, it would be really good to use layers, because they give you this assurance that you can always go back. There is always another type of having this assurance, which is save as, save as, save as. Just keep in mind that the layers take some or use some of the processing power in your device. So if you use them much, that you would see that the numbers here are accumulating. Now, to the next part of our flag, before getting back and showing you what you could do also in addition to just normal horizontal lines or vertical lines. Let's go to the cylinder. I've just added a cylinder, and again, I always like my wireframe to be on, to make sure that my geometry is clean and optimized. The same radius for all. You could, by the way, if you want, change that and give this top a little bit of a smaller radius. I'll keep it all the same for now and make it smaller. See, when this grid becomes very black, that means that the geometry or the density is very high. So I always try to bring it back, because we don't need much detail on this pole. And then I'll start moving it with the gizmo, as you probably have seen. And then also, before validating it and scaling it up, what I would like to do is to change the height in here. And I would like the height not to be so much, but a little bit enough to be communicated as a pole for the flag. And here we have the pole. Once you're happy with it, I can actually reduce the geometry a little bit by going all the way down and taking the density here. And once I'm happy with that, validate it, and here I have my pole. For my pole geometry, what I want to have is this chrome material that is already shipped with Nomad Sculpt. Clicking back on my flag, I want to go to the layer that is associated with the movement, which is this one here, and then I want to use the move tool and make it a little bit bigger and take this point here and probably this point there, so it is actually touching the pole. Of course, later on you could add a tube, and that tube would be translated as a thread if you think about it. And here we have our flapping flag. Now, before I end this tutorial, I'm not so happy, by the way, with what I did in here. So what I'll do is I'll bring back some of these points and then play on making again the geometry not so much distorted, but distorted enough to communicate how a flap look like. Now, there's other way of how you could do flags. So for example, in one of my 3D sculpts, you have this circassian flag, and the way to do it is by using alphas. So you could actually have an alpha for your flag and then bring this alpha here, and I will just demonstrate with the shipped alpha in here, which is the square. So I want my flag to be back to the way it was before, and I have this new layer which I have added, and this is the blue layer. What I want to do is to subdivide this layer and then use the masking tool, and rather than using the normal dot masking tool, I'm clicking on the stroke mask and going all the way down, change it to grab dynamic, click on the alpha, and in here you can load alphas. If you're still unaware about alpha, I have covered alpha in one of my video tutorial, which was modeling a coin. So I have my alpha in here. I just want to bring the scaling down, and I just want the fall off to be straight. And once that is done, I can come back here and do the shape I want. Remember, we're working with negative. You could, by the way, select everything and then work again with unmasking. That's one way to do it. But for now, I am still in my masking tool. I will invert it. And I could actually use another alpha. I don't know what would be the name of this flag, but again, I am not using my main device, and I thought this would be really useful for you. By the way, you can see that my alphas is not picking much details, and that's because of the geometry of the plane. So if I subdivide it again and probably subdivide it again, you can see now that the alpha is way clearer, and I'll do this and that. Once I'm happy with that, click on paint. Click on, you could paint it, which I might do actually. So I am in my paint, and I would like my alpha for painting to be this. I'm just double checking to make sure that the stroke is dot. And for my paint, let's add a little bit of gold into it, so a little bit of a chromatic metallic roughness material, which is not normal, but again, what is normal anyhow? So again, clicking on wireframe, you can see now that the flag is in place. And if you would like to see the effect of this layer, let me just go back, and make sure that in here I am on 100% and do again my painting. And my geometry has been compromised because of the movement of the iPad. Let's go back to the mask, clear, and in here, if I go to my layers, choose this one and apply it, you can see what is happening here. So you could actually propose different materials, different rendering, different colors and different shapes just using layer. And as you can see, you can simply remove all the materials and then you're back again to the first flag, or simply remove one and you are in this final design. And let me turn this on, and that would be it for today. So this was a short tutorial. Again, thank you for always inspiring me and always connecting with me. I always like reading your comments. If you found this tutorial useful, please leave me a like, comment. If you have any suggestions, feedback, I'm always happy to hear from you. Other than that, consider subscribing to this channel if you haven't yet. Consider sharing this with your peers, and I leave you with a turntable. I don't want to apply light or any other elements. I'll just leave you with the flag as it is. So that's it. I'll see you soon, and bye-bye.